once I met a girl, and she was in matric that year when I met her, and she was visiting the clinic, and we just happened to have a conversation, and I asked her what she's here for today, and then she said she's coming to remove the patch, the birth control patch, and I asked her. And as she was talking to me, she said, no, ma'am, I don't have a boyfriend. I'm not sexually active. And I looked at her and I'm like, oh, okay, no, that's fine. I didn't want to know that. But she came to remove it because she was no longer going to be traveling. So the risk of her being mugged or raped was what took her to the clinic and what made her decide on a contraceptive method. She wasn't sexually active. So when she shared that with me, I was so shocked. I didn't know what to say because I thought to myself, as a young girl, she needed to make that decision at the age of 17 for her future because she didn't want to ruin it by being at the wrong place at the wrong time and then sitting with an unwanted pregnancy. But the fear was, she was afraid that what if she gets raped?
That has sent shivers down my spine. That is...
How many other girls are not out there?
Darkness. This month's episode on Parents of Ubusha, we find Ulizal, Ukuluma no Vanessa, and they are sharing about this, and I'm just zooming in on this one story, but the whole podcast has so much information and is so rich as a parent, as a guardian to any child, and it brings me to our great note of the AAA, age-appropriate advice when it comes to sexual and reproductive health matters. Molweni, Sanbonani, hello. Goeiedag. Yeah, tried that one. Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Mandy. I'm one of the representatives of Ubusha Bamifuthi Yimilo, and we do the segment called Age Appropriate Advice with regards to sexual and reproductive health. So today I'm going to be giving age-appropriate advice with regards to children over the age of 17, 18, 19. We're going to be looking at the older adolescent group and talking about what things might be age-appropriate to start talking to them about sexual and reproductive health matters. And I think it's very important for me to start the foundation to say, I hope you have had conversations about sexual and reproductive health matters prior to this time. By the time you get to 17, 18, 19, Betunana, if you are starting the conversation here, I must say, God go with you. Godspeed. No, it is intense. These teens know everything. So you're not starting on a basis of people who don't know. You are having a conversation with someone who is aware. And that is a different conversation. So we're going to just get into it and humble ourselves and know that when we are having this conversation, it is a conversation where you as the parent, you are prepared to be asked questions. You are prepared to also be vulnerable. When you are speaking to a 3-year-old or someone who does not know, by that I mean virtue, when you're speaking to a child, a very little child, you are instructing, you are guiding. But when you're speaking to a teenager who has lived life, who is now of the age of knowing and reasoning, that's what you are doing. You are reasoning with your teen. And as much as you are still instructing and still guiding, there is a lot of autonomous power. Autonomy meaning unemvumo to accept the information omneza yona or to reject it. So at this point, not kusi ukulmela lide that your advice doesn't matter. No, njengemtali ukuluma kuze aguve avisise atikhethele. So you must accept that when you start the conversation with this age group. So let's get to it. So first and foremost, go promoter. Please go to our website and see what tools we have. We have a tool there specifically for teen parents. It is called the 8 questions for teen parents. And it is a list or questions of how to start the conversation so that you can gauge where your child is at in terms of sexual and reproductive health matters. So that is a good tool to start with. And like I said, if you're going to have the conversation, be prepared to be reasoned with, to answer questions, to share experiences, because that's what makes the conversation richer. So when it comes to the age group of 17, 18, 19, having the conversation, and especially now linking back to what we just heard now, is that the two main advices that was given in the lesson plan of speaking about sexual and reproductive health matters is that speak about the access to health care centers. This is important because when you reason with them about their choices when it comes to sexual and reproductive health, at this point, you are giving advice of how can they best protect themselves in the event that they choose to be sexually active, or they choose not to be sexually active but want more information from a medical front. Then you present to them, guthi eclinic kusebenza so, or eclinic ungaya banalogu nalogu kukusida. And then, so that's the first one. Tell them about what can they expect and what can they get from going to access healthcare facilities. The second one is talking about how they take care of their bodies. At this point already, the puberty spurt has happened. All the hygiene things are there, but we are re-emphasizing how to best take care of your body so that we can go into the deeper conversation of STIs, STI awareness, and especially for me as a health care provider, I am so excited because one of the things they say parents should talk about is teaching children about screening, primary health screening. So knowing how to do breast examinations for girls, knowing how to do testicle testing. So screening and seeing, okay, does the scrotum have both testicles inside? What's the normal feel of them? How should it feel? How is it abnormal? How is it normal? And another thing, also speaking about contraceptives, which contraceptives to use, what are the signs of STIs? You are just re-emphasizing information that they might have already heard, might have a lot of information on already, but now you are going in depth and speaking as a person who wants to reason and to dig in deeper and find out what are their concerns, what else would they like to know. And this is, and I must say, Batali, this is an optimum moment, especially the 17, 18 that is about to leave your household. Ahambe ayethe shari. If ungamtsheli letinto leti, if ungamvuleli isifuba ngako and really elaborate about letinto leti yendekako ukuthi fanele bagathe ini, bativikele njani. Tertiary is another beast. Tertiary is another world, and even if they don't go to a tertiary very far away from you, but the grand exposure to labanye bantwana who come from different households, different ideologies, necabanga kwabo, tinkolo tabo, tindlela tokuphila letingafani, bantwana baba exposed and bayafundziseka tinto letihle naletibi. Kepha if basuka equipped, knowing what to look out for, what is out there, then they go in 10 steps ahead. So don't miss this opportunity to have that conversation with them. So the one thing that this conversation on the podcast speaks about, by the way, this was a conversation from Parents of Ubusha's podcast. You can find it on all social platforms, and it's a podcast by Ubusha Bam. So what it was talking about was, number one, a teenager who got a contraceptive because of the fear of being raped and then having an unplanned pregnancy. So that is a true reality in South Africa. Singayifihli nakhona. Bafati in South Africa are very vulnerable. We are susceptible to rape, to violence, and many other things. And akusi bafati phela, if you look at statistics, it also shows that a lot of young boys are actually raped. It's something we don't talk about often, but it's something that happens. So we must be very aware that rape is still a very prominent thing. And especially with this age group, as they go to varsity, Ama University also have tindzawo that are hotspots for into lesibita i-rape culture. So because bavamise ukuthi bafike babe exposed to mad clubs, mad parties, etc., a lot of rape happens in those settings. So kutivikela ngokuthola i-contraceptive at that point asiyinto le lengakajwayeleki, into le ngayendeka, and it actually is a protective thing for a young woman to do that. Kepha bafana fanele bafundziseke nabo ukuthi a person who's intoxicated is incapable of giving consent, and a person who is intoxicated is incapable of suggesting, or should not ideally suggest, sex. But because siyati magune intoxication associated, tingqondo ticabanga kahle, mundu akacabanga kahle, and all parties are at fault and should not be even thinking about sexual engagement. So ngito tino longa xwayisa mntwana about ukuthi you will encounter such things, and therefore look out for this, rather do X, Y, and Z. So when you're having this conversation at this age group, like I said, it is a moment of reasoning. It is a moment of having deep conversations and moments of vulnerability, and where you will get the most if you're honest. You'll get the most if you actually tell the story that you're most embarrassed about. So consider, tell the truth, and be transparent. It might just save your teen. Anyways, so going to our first point, accessing healthcare. Accessing healthcare, it is very important for you to tell the age group that the clinics are not there for moments when you feel ill only. The clinics are there also for prevention purposes. This is a very important factor. Njengema South Africans, and I know this is a healthcare provider, we don't relate to our health sector like we should. We don't use it as much as we should. Using our healthcare sector, one of its primary functions is for prevention purposes. Even as adults, we don't use it for that, and we should. So prevention purposes meaning accessing a healthcare sector should not only be you go for illness purposes, but only when it's an emergency or only when you feel unwell. You can also access it for the purpose of screening, for the purpose of prevention. So meaning when you go for contraceptives, when you go for screening, such as doing a pap smear for young girls, doing HIV testing for both girls and boys, for general checkup, because you just want to find out ukuthi ngiphilile yini noma khona lingahambi kahle, and that can be done at clinic. So I think another point here is ukuthi ufundzisa abantwana what are the correct channels of approaching healthcare facilities. Awuyi esibhedlela for a general checkup. Sibhedlela is not for that. Primary healthcare sectors and centers are for screening and prevention. So uqala at your local clinic. So yamfundzisa mntwana ukuthi no, acting ukuthi u-approach i-clinic only mawugula. Uyaya uthi sister, sengibona ngimzala ngikhulile, bengifisa ku-testa for HIV. Bengifisa nakhona ukuthi ngihlolwe ukuthi konke ma-parts aphelele, are right, are healthy. Which things should I look out for? You know, things like that. Is it appropriate for age? So we must learn to teach these things, because this teaching your children these things teaches them also healthy behaviors and healthy habits and healthy relation with services that are out there and are provided by government to assist our citizens. So teach them that it is fruitful and it is not a waste of time. And even you as a parent, learn that's how you should relate to these services. So accessing healthcare centers, it's good for them to teach what is their function. And in this case, when you talk to your teen, the function for them is for prevention purposes. Go get screened. Go get HIV tested. Go do a pap smear if you are sexually active already. Of course, and keep in mind that if your child is a virgin or a child has not had their sexual debut, meaning they aren't sexually active, a pap smear wouldn't be advised at this point, because you don't want to violate the child or put them in a compromised position. So let them also be aware of such things. If you aren't If you haven't had your sexual debut, you don't have to have a pap smear at this point. So moving on, also what's important with accessing health care center is for safety purposes. So there's 3 things I want us to talk about with safety. Number 1, safety. Let them be aware that these services are also there at any point if they are ever sexually assaulted, whether indombatane noma mfana, girl or boy. If ever you are sexually assaulted, healthcare sector is the first place you need to go. You can go to a police station, but even if ungavela ekliniki iqala, that too is also great. They will then inform the police to come and do the case and help you through. But they could be your first point of call. So safety, the first one's that. Secondly, with safety is if at any point your child is sexually active and at this point they then have unprotected sex with somebody they don't know, it is important to highlight that going to the clinic is your first point of call for emergency contraceptive as well as for PEP. So for post-exposure prophylaxis. So that's for HIV prevention if you suspect that you've been exposed. So that too is another one that they need to then go to the clinic and go and ask for help. So when you're having this conversation, it's not an interrogation where it is your opportunity to find out what's, yeah, vele. So nienda and vele and then, so nienda logo. Vele faneni clinic. Are you active? When you're active, no, it's not an interrogation. How you can put this is the moment where you can say, so, do you know what a clinic they offer this? Do you know what a clinic they also offer this? So make it an objective third-person information session. If they want to ask more questions, they can. And if they feel comfortable asking as a first person, say, Mama mineng nage log na logo. Ngingaya nje clinic for log na logo. Excellent. If they don't want to do that and would say, Mara clinic bayenda anvel, bayavuma kuthi nje sihambe nethi siyothi checka. Bayavuma nje kuthi nethi sihambe siyobuka, siyokhipha tingadi, siyo in. Then it's fine. They can use someone else as an example, or they can even do it as a third party. That's perfectly fine. Just keep the conversation going and flowing, but inform your child of what is out there. Our second and last point is teaching them to take care of their bodies. I repeat. At this age group, you are reasoning with your teenager. So at this point, when you're reasoning with your teenager, you are then trying to find out, do they know the signs and symptoms of things that could be dangerous to them and those things that are actually normal and healthy. So one of the things they speak about is, as I was excited about, screening, primary health screening. Daughters, teach them how to screen for breast cancer. When we have Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it is always taught. You do the clockwise method. Put the hands behind your head. You take the one hand, you go to the breast, and you do clockwise motion around the breast to screen for breast cancer, any lumps. Do that on a flat surface. So teach your child, your daughters, how to screen for breast cancer. What is an abnormal feeling breast? What are the abnormal signs? Is there a discharge that comes out of the breast? Is there changes over the nipple, over the areola? So ingono, khona lekpumago, gleskumba, kyachinja makhala, khona lakpumingati khona discharge. You teach those things. That's for girls. For the boys, you also teach them. And what I would advise, especially with parents, is get the same gender to teach about these things. It is not ideal for a dad to be teaching breast screening, not because the dad is going to violate the child or anything like that, but it is more practical and safer in our society for a mom, a female figure, to teach about that. So if you are a single parent household, you can get an aunt for your daughter that you trust to teach about this. For a young boy, an uncle or another father who you trust, who can teach your son about this. So your son, you teach them how to screen and how to tell the difference when the testicles or the scrotum has something abnormal in it. They feel, they palpate, are both the testes still intact? Is the skin normal? Is one way larger than the other? Could there be fluid there? How can they tell the difference? Are they feeling a hard mass? Is it painful? Even looking at the penis itself, how do they identify when there's sores that are unusual? Because they need to know what to look out for when they actually might have a sexually transmitted infection. Learning how to screen for these things also helps them to protect their future partners, because now they know that, no, I need to glove up because this could be harmful for somebody else. So is there discharge coming from the penis? Is there an ulcer on the penis? And therefore these are abnormal, or this is not normal. And also we always advise that for males, circumcision is advised because it does show, or it has been proven, that it reduces the risk of sexually transmitted infections. However, if the boy isn't circumcised, it's also fine, but we do advocate for it. So those are the type of things you teach when it comes to screening with the different genders. Another one, you teach about the use of barrier contraceptives. So njengemdali, you can't only wait for the schools to be doing these demonstrations. Be proactive. Show up to the conversation. So bring the condoms. Show them how you open a condom, what to look out for, expiry date. Ubusha Bami has done a lot of work. I'm sorry, I must blow our own horns, but there is so much you can learn from the content that we put out there. Last month, I remember we did a whole segment, Umusa no Samge, which is supposed to be a skit for the teens, where they were teaching about the 8 things that you need to know about condom safety. And they spoke about how you store a condom, where you store it, what to look out for, the expiring dates, is it opened, has it been tampered with, things like that. So learn, check out the content, and educate yourself, so that when you show up to the conversation, be the professor of the conversation as a parent. You're the knowledgeable one. And even if your teen is terming you and be like, yeah, I know that, then it's fine. Balance each other. So yes, teach them how to use the barrier contraceptives. So female condoms, also there, how are they used? Male condoms, how are they used? How do you open it? How do you, apply it, demonstrate? And you don't need big things. Condoms are free at the clinics. Bananas are available that look more or less like how a penis looks like. For the female condom, you don't need to show how it's inserted. Just show which side should be inserted, But you can be creative and know how to use it. You can even use a cup to demonstrate how you actually insert it. Then another thing is speak about contraceptives. This conversation about contraceptives is not only for girls. The boy child needs to know what contraceptives are available and what contraceptives and how contraceptives actually work. Because this is a child who you're grooming to be a potential partner to somebody one day. And before I forget, last month when we were speaking with Ubusha Bami, some of the content that was out there, we learned about different barrier contraceptives. And one barrier contraceptive that we never speak about as well is the finger condom. We must be aware that in our society, we don't only have heterosexual relationships, there's also homosexual relationships. And finger condom is what should be also advocated for and used in homosexual relationships, or even certain heterosexual relationships. So speak about that as well, that too is available. And allow your child also, if they want to express themselves about their sexual orientation. This is another moment or opportunity for you to learn more about your child and start those important conversations. Like I said, at this age, you're pretty much reasoning and hearing where the mindset of your child is at. So go in, find out, learn, and allow yourself to also be taught and to be curious and to have a moment with your child. There's so much you could learn. So with the contraceptive options, show both girls and boys, what is out there. The pills, the devices that are out there. Ubusha Bami, part of our tools, we have a contraceptive list. You can print that out. It's got little icon pictures that you can show and use that. It speaks about the advantages, the disadvantages, how long the contraceptive can stay in, and that's a good tool for you guys to talk about that and even have the conversation to be. I remember I had this conversation with my mom about contraceptives, and I was shocked to find out the contraceptives she's used and what she advised, what didn't work for her, what did work for her. But it was such an enlightening conversation because it's like, girl, you use that. And whoa! And I'm having this conversation with my mom at a later stage of my life, but it would have been so good to have it earlier in life because I learned about these things at school because now I'm a medical doctor, but also I learned about them through friends here and there. But it would have been so nice to hear it firsthand from my own mother. So talk about that and find out what's out there, what worked for you, what didn't. And another thing that also came up in the Parents of Ubusha conversation was Ulizal spoke about how certain people or certain teens bayawayeka ama-contraceptives once they have side effects because now they don't know who to talk to. They're afraid to also tell their parents they're on a contraceptive. But if you had brought this conversation up, ungakhuluma ukuthi once you have these side effects ingathusi buyele clinic yobabuta ukuthi phela sekwendeka lo sengiyopha non-stop, what must I do? So do you see ukuthi kubaluleka of having the conversation could really save and help your child from so much distress? So please, I hope you are having this conversation. I really hope you're having these conversations. But finally, also have this conversation about them taking care of their bodies and screening. I go back and I just want to emphasize so that they can also learn what are the signs of a STI. Discharge or ilonda over the genital area. I've seen a lot of teens come in with genital warts. Yes, teenage girls coming in with genital warts. They're not sure what these things are, but they are there. And they're freaking out and not sure what to do with them. It's very uncomfortable, etc., etc. So rest assured, there are things that your teens are going through that they're not telling you about. So when you bring this up in conversation and also ubaxwayise, ubatshele ukuthi some of these things katsa loku, look out for this. Loku makukhona, kusho ukuthi kunaloku. You'd be helping your teen a lot. And it doesn't have to be a direct wena unako yin. Kukhona kuwe yin. Guys, don't defeat us like that, please. You are superb parents who will not be doing an interrogation, but it will be a conversation. It will be one of those, I saw this, or I've experienced this, and that made me feel X, Y, and Z. So if you encounter it, just know you can take these measures. So I hope with just those few tips, it will be a pleasant conversation. So I re-emphasize, between the ages of 17, 18, 19, you are having a reasoning conversation with your teen. And at this point, you are not telling them what to do, but you are trying to gauge where they're at. What else can you add? And learn from them as they'll also be learning from you. And I think my greatest advice will be, tell them your journey. When we share our testimonies can be life-saving to those we share them with. This is not only on a religious basis, but this is also on a health basis. Sharing of information from a first-hand person who's experienced it does a world of a difference. So, all the best, parents of Ubusha. You can do this.